Hey folks, welcome into the BN Cubs podcast. I'm Brett Taylor. That's Michael Cerami here to talk Cubs, courtesy of Ankin Law, 312-6 million, injury law made personal. The Cubs have blessed us with at least one more in-season pod.
Oh, you just reminded me that they did what they've been doing all year.
They did it again.
I can't believe it again.
I was thinking that last night. It was the only thing. That's my love for our podcast listeners. Cubs were, surviving and keeping their season alive, but I was exclusively thinking about the fact that the Cubs always win like the night before we're about to record. So they hooked us and you up, and thus we get to do another in-season pod before turning the page to any other topics. And hopefully,
wait.
There's a comma coming. There was a comma there.
Okay.
It was a run-on sentence, but there was a comma coming after which the clause was going to be, and hopefully they will provide us with several more before this season is over.
Lawyer speak.
Yeah, dude, that's the beauty of being live and contemporaneous, is you can just like always be abutting with additional clauses. So I would have been really good at filibustering. I never got the chance to actually ever do that, but I feel like
feels like you're doing it right now.
I don't want to get to the next topic. Anyway, yes, Cubs won last night. They took the series to 2-1. Brewers lead, obviously winning that first home game at Wrigley Field, continuing the trend of if you score in the top of the first in this series, you are going to lose that game. I wonder, do you think I wouldn't be surprised if in baseball history, that's extraordinarily rare that 3 games in a row a team has scored in the top of the first and that team has lost.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing I think about stats like that. We've gotten way too good at looking up stats like that.
Do you prefer to not know?
No, it's not my point. My point is that so many stats are like the first time XYZ scenario has happened that they are losing their potency of interest to me, because the depths of our ability to search data in like user-friendly ways is everyone is like, well, this, and it's like, okay, I guess.
Let me give you one. I did not find this all that. I mean, I agree with your point generally, because you'll see some where it's like, this is the first time on a Tuesday, both switch hitters in a lineup have hit doubles in consecutive innings. It's like, wow, that's the first time? That's crazy. Although eventually we are going to run out of those in 100 years.
Yeah, not anytime soon, apparently.
No. But the one that I thought was, I don't know. I was surprised, I suppose, that it's the first time it's happened, but it didn't really strike me as all that sort of uniquely impressive. Was Michael Busch is the first hitter to hit leadoff homers twice in a single postseason series. And it's like, that's interesting that that's the first. I'm surprised that there was never, one of these sort of, well-known leadoff hitters that had lots of leadoff home runs. I'm surprised that's never happened, but it doesn't feel like, wow, he's really special because of that.
Well, especially because there's probably been 1 million leadoff home runs once, players doing it once. And that is whatever. And I bet you there's also a bunch of guys who are leadoff hitters who have hit more than 1 home run in a series,
right?
Just not leading off.
What does it matter?
Is there a material difference there? Yeah. And that's my point. It's like, who cares?
No,
I mean, I not who cares Michael Busch. He's the man.
Yeah.
But who cares? It's basically not even a stat.
And mostly that first inning one that I'm talking about, I just find it, I can't remember the last time that we could make that joke of oh, you scored first in the top of the first, you screwed.
That we both tweeted it out at the same time.
That was funny.
Can I ask you? I feel as though the umpires made the correct call on that infield.
Just published a post on that, but yes, keep going.
Okay, so you should have some info then. I understand why it wasn't called, because they say no one had it. But so many rules in baseball, I feel like are taking away intent from the ruling, or not even intent, but any ambiguity. But in that case, they are allowing it. So
Sure.
are you to tell me that, you know how like, you know, the reason that the infield fly rule exists is so you can't unfairly double people off or whatever. So are we to understand that if a really smart player like Nico Horner pretends to not see the ball, they won't call an infield and then he could let it drop and do the play? That doesn't feel appropriate. And obviously in the circumstance, I'm not saying that obviously that's not what happened last night. They really did lose it. The umps really did make the correct call. And there's a perfect example of why that should be like that. But it just opens up a door to a level of ambiguity that they don't tend to allow in other areas of the game.
I mean, there's certainly a judgment call factor to it. And that was the description after the game, right? That it has to be a pop fly that is expected to be caught with ordinary effort. And per the ump who was speaking for the crew, when they saw the ball at its apex, they could see that the infielders on the right side had not located the ball, and they could see where it was going to drop, and that clearly it was not going to be able to be caught with ordinary effort. Now, to add to your point, what I struggle a bit is, well, were the base runners supposed to know that? Like, the whole point is the whole point of the rule, as you said, is so that teams can't trick the base runners and get free double plays. Well, on that one, if Dansby Swanson had stayed home at shortstop and if Matt Shaw had stayed home at third base, what do the Cubs just get an easy double play because
and they should have been pissed then. Exactly.
And the Brewers would have rightfully been pissed because their base runners got screwed. But then again, the response to that is, well, sometimes funky stuff happens that screws players. That it's not
I know, but that's like the point of rules being like to eliminate whatever. I mean, it doesn't. Sure. It ultimately doesn't matter. But
in the way it played out, I would have agreed, and I think this is what Craig Counsell said after, is that, you know, if they had called infield fly on that one, kind of would have been unfair to the Brewers. It would have been a free out for the Cubs because they were not going to catch that ball. So I agreed with your point that
how many times though has the ball get lost in the sun and someone sticks their glove out at the last second to catch it,
especially when there's four guys converging.
Actually, can we? I don't know if you wrote.
I was gonna say you made the point. Yours, it was generic when you tweeted it out, but I'll make it more specific. Yeah. I was a little, what's the word? Not annoyed, surprised, I guess, given his typical acumen, that Dansby Swanson, he was the only one on that side that saw the pop fly immediately, right? Like you could tell from his reaction, he knew exactly where it was, but you could also tell he wasn't going to get to it. He was way too far away. He was never going to get to it. And so it's like, what are you thinking, bud? Don't stay at second base. There's four guys over there. I promise you one of them will pick it up off the ground. So it had to just been an instinctive reaction. Like, they don't see it. I got to get that ball. No, stay home.
That was bad. That was bad baseball.
It would have been an easy force out at second base.
You can't let it happen. You can't. That was really bad. That was a bad mental error, and it's tough because we're running into a lot of this postseason. So Nico Horner has the big error in game 2. Game 2, right?
Game
1.
Yeah.
Okay. It's all the same now. And you're like, well, he's literally the greatest ever. You know, not. I said literally in the way
you said literally, but
you mean the opposite of literally.
Yeah.
He's just the best. And so you have to forgive him, or Dansby doing that. And it's like, okay, or Matthew Boyd, you pretty much are one of the biggest reasons we're even in the playoffs. And now you're kind of doing what you're doing. And it's like, man, we're running into a lot of that. Ian Happ, one of 2 guys who hit from August 1st until the end of the regular season, having a horrendous playoff, run here. Kyle Tucker, again, one of the only reasons the Cubs got to 20 games over 500 at all, and then just kind of whatever, in the second half. And maybe we should talk about him in a second, but I'm just kind of getting, it's exhausting that so many of these games we score early and then we just are holding on for dear life. So many of these games are the guys that never do these things wrong or hadn't throughout the season, or that we, respect, like to root for, are having weaker moments, and it's Matt Shaw has been a zero factor offensively. It's just like, I don't know. Even Caleb Thielbar and Drew Pomeranz have been so good, and at some point they might let up a run, and what are you gonna say? Sure. Like, you can't say anything. I guess that's just baseball, but like, boy, it doesn't feel like we're in the driver's seat, and haven't been even throughout the Padres series. Like, it kind of just feels like we're hanging on for dear life, and not in the typical playoff way. It's just kind of like, I don't know.
What it feels like is if the Cubs were to pull out a win tonight and on Saturday and sort of go deep in the NLCS or whatever, make the World Series, whatever, it's not going to feel like let me put it another way. The Dodgers are looking good, right, to make the NLCS and then perhaps make the World Series. If and when that happens, that's going to feel like a manifestation of the team they always were, and sort of like, oh, they are showing themselves. If the Cubs do the same thing, it's going to feel, if it plays out like these first handful of games of the postseason, it's going to feel more like they just survived and happened to win enough games to get there.
Oh my God, they're Rocky Balboaing their way through the playoffs. They just are trying to take as many. Oh my God,
take as many blows.
I'm on board now. The Cubs are Rocky Balboa. They're not in Rocky 1. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're just getting punched.
So they have to lose in the World Series then, right? If they're Rocky 1
it in right now. Give me the World Series. I'll take it in a heartbeat. Honestly, I think I'd take an NLCS loss. I think if you make our CEO
as of today
reached out to,
of course,
sure, but reached out to us, and I do think that this is fair. I think I don't want to get into like, was the season a success or not yet, because we'll talk about that when everything is done. But to me, an LCS or ALCS, if you're an AL team, a CS appearance is like, okay, you've accomplished all that you could force yourself to accomplish. And it's sort of just what happens from here on out. Do you feel that way? It is a CS appearance, like it is a definitive mark of a successful season?
I'm trying to imagine a scenario where a CS appearance would ever be like, that I could ever properly characterize that as disappointing or as a failure, and so it'd be like 2016 would have been the year, I suppose, because they were coming off an appearance the year before. They added to the team. They were a juggernaut. They were loaded. They marched through the regular season. They made significant paid the significant acquisition price at midseason. They did all the things that like were geared toward an even further run. And yeah, I think it's got to be something like that where you could even think about calling a season that ended, with like a 4-2 loss in the NLCS a failure. And that's tough. That's a stretch. Like, it's not like I look at 2017.
To be fair, no, you're right about 2016 for sure. That's probably the format or the picture. But 2017 was not a failure by any means. But I do think people do not think back very fondly on that season.
No, but if they'd been inverted, like if it had been 2015, then 2017, then 2016, playing out the exact same way, people would think 2017 was a great season. Got close, got a little bit closer, and that NLDS was a really fun series, and all those things. So I think 2016 kind of is the reason that 2017 isn't. It's not because the Cubs lost in the NLCS.
So basically, though, what we're saying is the Cubs are currently 2 wins shy of a great.
I mean, look, I'm
see
not
what I mean, though?
Yeah. And I'm not trying to say that I would not believe that they could win in the NLCS or that I wouldn't be rooting for that. It's nothing like that. But we said, again, I got to go back like 3 weeks. We were looking ahead at the possibility that the Cubs could face the Brewers in the NLDS. And it absolutely felt like winning that series, the one we're in right now, would be the mark of, that's not a wrap up for the season, but like, that's a good accomplishment. That's one of those banners that flies that people make the jokes, but that's like, I would point to years from now and be like, you know what though? I like that one. I like that
Yeah.
one.
So you know what's killing me right now is losing game 2. And it's because I don't know if you feel this way, but you know, what is likely to be Freddy Peralta versus Matthew Boyd or some collection of arms tonight is pretty much the game, because game 5, the Brewers don't have they did a bullpen game for game 2, which is
worked pretty well.
I know, but so my point is that's the game the Cubs losing to Freddy Peralta with a broken Matthew Boyd in game 1 in Milwaukee. It's that's mathematically probably what should have happened. Had the Cubs been able to, if Shota was not, if things played out differently, you feeling better. And now it feels like if the Cubs can win tonight, they have a great chance in game 5, because game 5 is game 5 and anything can happen. But so basically what I'm saying is this feels like the game.
Well, and I'd add to that the Brewers have this sort of added contemplation that so Peralta would be pitching on regular rest today, just like Boyd would be.
Oh, I'll be thrilled if they do what you're about to say.
And that is what they should do. Make no mistake. There's no reason they should not. Now, he is better with extra rest, okay? And he is better at American Family Field. So, two things you might be thinking if you're the Brewers, if you're gonna get a little too cute, it would be maybe we try to win this thing without using Freddy today, okay? And if we lose, then we say, okay, we'll deploy him on Saturday and lock this thing up. Okay. If we win without using him tonight, then we get to use him in game 1 of the NLCS on Monday, which they would not be able to do if they use him tonight or Saturday.
Well, now, here's the thing though. I'd have to look at the schedule. Saturday it's the game 5 wouldn't be tomorrow. It's in 2 days. And so that Saturday brings you, does that, I get that you wouldn't be able to use him in game 1 of the CS, but would that push him back to game 3 by chance by moving him?
If you had to use him, no, if he goes on Saturday, it is going to mess that up. But I'm saying the reason you would hold him for Saturday is the hope that you don't have to play on Saturday at all.
Yeah, I know. I guess I'm just saying it feels like you're pushing him back 1 game in this series and 2 games in the CS if you were to do that.
Sure, but again, if you succeed, and I'm just saying if they try to get cute, if you succeed and you win tonight near the Brewers without having pitched Peralta, then you could pitch him in game 1 and potentially game 4 and potentially game 7. And that's the only way you can do that is if he does not pitch today. So
hey, I hope that's what they try to do.
And they might, and look, if they did do it, I'm sure they could say it's no, it's not about that. It's that he pitches better on extra rest. He pitches better at home. We just didn't love the matchup. And I agree. I would, if they want to get cute and do that, it's not like I would feel worse about having to face him in a game 5 than I would about having to face him tonight.
No, I mean, honestly, it's only about the extra nerves of a game 5 after losing 2 games in a row. It's not that I like the Cubs' chances more. It's just that it's we've seen these games before.
We've seen it.
It's completely different.
Yep.
Whereas tonight is pretty straightforward.
Yeah. And you hope, I guess, that they feel, because they know that it's if you win 2, then you lose 2, and then the pressure's really on you.
Yeah.
I hope they're feeing it tonight, that they're we can't let it get to that.
It'll be so, oh God, I want it so bad.
I absolutely do, because there's no other option at this point. But it's funny. I'm thinking back to 2017 and the NLDS against the Nationals, which went to that 5th game. And that was one of the tensest, most stressful. I enjoy it.
Remember Scherzer came in and had that crazy inning
and fell apart, and they had the catcher interference that was
dropped third strike or catcher's interference.
Javi hit Wieters, but they didn't call, or they didn't stop the play.
There was something weird about it. I remember being we caught a break.
Because months later, because Dusty, I guess, submitted a complaint to the league, and then months later, the league was we screwed that up. So
Yeah.
sorry about that.
How do you feel, speaking of that, how do you feel the calls have gone for and against the Cubs through the first two series? I feel like there's been a little bit of mix on both sides. There's been some like big, strike calls for the Cubs. Then there's like PCAs.
So I should have included this in the bullets, but I couldn't quickly find a clip. So obviously the PCA strike 3 non-swing check swing last night was obviously the wrong call. You watch the replays, and I'm actually more generous to swing calls than a lot of people because I think they misunderstand the check swing rule. Like, people think that there's a hard line. It's like if your wrists break or this or that or whatever. No, that's not the rule. A swing is simply if a batter goes too far in the process of attempting to contact the ball. That's what a swing is. And you want to talk about judgment calls like you were talking about earlier. That is like the fuzziest of judgment calls ever. And we've come up with these ways, these heuristics
breaking
of
the plane or.
Yeah, exactly. But so you kind of have to just like look at it and be like, committed too much, didn't commit. No, Pete did not. That was a really standard checked swing. But there was one later in the game. I'm trying to think of who it was. I feel like it was when Kittredge was pitching. So nobody was on base. He had already given up the solo homer. Nobody's on base. You don't know that it would have turned to anything, but there was a same umpire. It was a lefty, check swing, appealed, strikeout. Dude, it was totally not a swing also. And I didn't see anybody talking about that one. And so
I feel like the calls, I feel like the Cubs have benefited from some calls and they've gotten, boned by some calls in an even sense.
Yes, it's not been
which is probably, which if I'm being, this is like such a Brett-ism. If I'm feeling like it's been fair, it's probably been in the Cubs.
It's probably been skewed toward. That's funny.
But there have been some that have gone against the Cubs, and I especially in the Padres series, I think there were a few.
There were,
those, I was like, oh, come on. So I don't know. I think it's been okay. I guess what I'm saying is I don't think the umpiring has moved this or the Padres series in one direction or the other, which is good.
And I would say too, I guess we should talk about, because all of these Brewers games have played out since the last podcast. The decision to start Matthew Boyd on short rest in game 1, the decision to, I don't know how to frame this, but the way Shota was used in game 2, various bullpen decisions, lineup decisions, the letting Justin Turner hit first against the lefty opener, all these things that basically I'm talking about Craig Counsell and the managerial decisions. What's your feeling as we sit here? Like, because if you'll recall, we left the Padres series by and large. There was that one inning where he left Shota in too long. And I think if you'd polled Cubs fans live, they, 80% would have said, get him out of there. And
which is the opposite of how that's an even more extreme. Sorry, this is not your point, but most people default to let him keep going, and in that case, I don't think they would have said that. So.
Right. I think we were right on that one. But setting that aside, for the bulk of the Padres series, the talk about Craig Counsell was, man, that's why you get Craig Counsell, because everything he was doing was right. I have picked up a different vibe in this Brewers series, which could be just reflective of the fact that the Cubs lost the first 2 games. And by the way, I don't know that any managerial decisions were salvaging either of those games. No. But how are you feeling about that?
So personally, I think starting Justin Turner was the right call and also worked out. So
he got a hit.
Yeah. I think that's the right call. And that's with me suggesting that Michael Busch is maybe the best player the Cubs have right now. And there was just no way that Busch wasn't going to play 7 innings of that game. So I wasn't sweating it. It wasn't a Justin Turner start. It was
a pinch. He was pinch hitting.
Yes.
Earlier when you don't have to take anybody out for it.
Yeah. So I wasn't that I'm putting that in the correct call section. Now, before I say the next thing, I want to try to distance myself from the, I'll keep it anonymous because I'm not trying to drag anyone, talk radio, bits that were like, you can never throw Shota Imanaga. You can never throw Matthew Boyd.
Yeah.
I can't believe what the guys were thinking. And everyone knew it. It's like, well, no, they both definitely have to pitch.
Yeah.
That said, no, I absolutely wouldn't have thrown Matthew Boyd in game 1 on short rest.
Do you remember in
when
this
he was
podcast,
already gassed? What did I say the opposite?
No. When we talked about game 1 in this podcast last week, we threw in Boyd at the very end as like, oh yeah, I guess they could pitch him on short rest.
Okay.
We were talking about Colin Ray and Javier Assad. And so,
yes. And so I guess my point is like, you're talking about a guy who is like categorically gassed.
I don't know why that's tickling me just right, but yes, that is what.
And you're going to do him on short rest, making it harder against a team that has owned him all year. For the most
on the
part.
road where he has not
on the road where he's been worse. So like, what signals were telling you that was better when I'm not saying, and this is where I'm different, where I'm trying to separate myself. You start him in game 2. I'm not saying you can't use him. I get it. And then you maybe go to Tyone for game 3. And
so is that about, would you bury Shota like that? And just he might not have appeared at all then, if that's the way it played out.
Yeah, it's possible, but okay. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is yes, but here's the yes part of it. It seemed clear to me, and I think everyone would have. That's why I wrote this article yesterday, that Jameson Taillon right now on normal rest is the most effective pitcher the Cubs have available to them. He's the best one,
clearly.
So you can't not pitch Boyd and you can't not pitch Shota. You need these guys to be involved, and they all are in their way. But Boyd was such a bad decision on short rest, and Taillon going on normal rest is such a good decision that if you just were to have started anyone else or done your bullpen game or whatever, and then gone Boyd, Taillon, Shota, and then whatever you need to do for game 5, that's what should have happened. And I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's, I'm not saying like, I mean, like let me put it to you this way. There's like a pretty good argument. Maybe we could talk about this after we hit our mid thing, is like at a certain point, it's actually starting to kind of seem like Moises Ballesteros should be in one of these games for someone. But I can understand not doing that way more. There's a lot of than pushing Boyd back a start to get him on regular rest in a game that's definitely still going to happen. I mean, There was no other way that was going to play out. There was no other way.
Well, I think here's what I think happened is the considerations realistically were either Boyd starts that game or Colin Ray starts that game. I think those were really the only now once we look back on it and looking ahead, since they decided not to carry Javier Assad on the roster, which that's a whole other discussion. But I think once that was clear, then it was like, okay, Boyd on short rest, but can he give us 2 innings? Can he give us 2 good innings? Say their math of it. It's like, okay, we've got about a 70% shot. He can give us 2 good innings, and then Ray can come in and backfill for 3 good innings, and we work out the rest. I think that was probably the best laid plan, and it blew up in their face. And I think that's a lot of why you saw, well, I don't want to be like an armchair psychologist, but I feel like as the camera kept showing Craig Counsell in that first inning, there was a lot more visible frustration and disappointment and anguish
down the hall.
Than we usually see from him. And I think that, and I wonder if some of that is because it's like, and we all felt it as we're watching it. Like, we're like, this is going exactly the worst version of what we feared could happen. And
arguably the most likely version though. I don't think I don't understand why not most likely, like it's 80-20. I mean, like, like 51-40, it was more likely
it wasn't
he was going to get blown up.
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to get blown up.
I think,
I mean, there was an error, I guess, but what are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, he didn't get helped by that. So he might've gotten out of it, giving up a couple runs or whatever. And I think that he made really bad pitches. And like, I know that there's going to be a lot of the discourse about what the Brewers do or don't do at home in relation to relaying, tipping, and things like that. And I would just note they hit a lot better on the road this year, by the way, in case folks didn't know. And I think that the same thing with the dinger Shota gave up and the dinger Palencia gave up. Those are just bad pitches. And you can get that's not even a criticism of the pitchers, because everybody is going to throw bad pitches sometimes, and hitters aren't always going to clobber your bad pitches. It's
especially
more of
101.
Just, yeah,
101 miles per hour. Like, it was a bad pitch, dead center, but it was 101.
And it was 0-2. Like, he was just ready for that. Like, and I'm not, again, that's not me saying he knew, although he was signaled on it, but it's like, I don't know. Even if you know a Daniel Palencia fastball is coming, that doesn't mean
that's
you're
what I'm saying.
Able to hit it 400 and whatever feet. So
PCA almost caught it. He almost got that one.
That was, you know what? People were making fun of him that he jumped in, hit the wall when the ball was, 30 feet up. Two things. That's not his home park. Okay. So he's only chased so many balls to dead center there at American Family Field. Two, that is a very vertical wall behind the batter's eye. It's very vertical. So it makes it look so much further.
Okay, blog boy.
Than it really was. Oh boy.
No, I agree.
We talk about that.
Can I tell you that I appreciated it? I liked when I was
I mean,
go for it.
He's tracking the ball. He wasn't thinking like, oh, I can miraculously whatever. He's tracking the ball. He starts his jump and it's like, oh, there's a wall here.
If anyone was going to jump 40 feet up, it'd be PCA.
Let him climb the wall. The Misiorowski celebration, I got absolutely lit up because I had the audacity to suggest that his deeply weird celebration about taking a comebacker all the way to first base in a completely non-critical part of the game, and he celebrated it like he just scored the winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. Yeah. I made a little fun of it. He looked dorky. I made fun of it. And my God, Brewers fans, for the next 24 hours, I was not. And just regular baseball fans that were scolding me like, how dare you not let him celebrate? I'm like, I'm just making fun of him because it looked stupid in a moment that wasn't huge.
Listen,
the end.
Yes. All of those things I agree with. The argument like that, I get it. It was, it's the playoffs. He got it through the inning. He's a young guy.
It's his first appearance.
All of that is fine. It justifies celebrating. I think it's a little, I agree that it was funny because first of all, it did not look natural at all.
It didn't. It looked like he was doing a Fortnite
this is what people
dance.
do. Yes. It looked very unnatural. And he already has an awkward, like teenager-esque like demeanor. He'll probably grow out of that. And he throws 104 so I can shove it up my butt, whatever.
There's only so much.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not coming at him. He's a whatever. It didn't look cool, and no one can justify that it did. And it's not about celebrating. Of course you should celebrate. It was like the degree of the celebration, especially when he had even admitted to this afterwards. And I was thinking this in the moment. He didn't throw it to first because he knew he would screw it up. If he
panicked,
did.
he would.
Yeah. So it was like, I don't know. Was that great? So forget it. I don't want to linger on that because I understand. But whatever.
I don't blame the young man for his excitement. I also don't think that there's anything wrong with a salty Cubs fan making some fun of it in the moment. I was like, I'm not denying when people are like, you're just salty. But I am. I'm very salty about what's happening. Sucks. And that guy's not on my team. I would like that guy on my team.
Yeah. All right. I got two things I could bring up. But first, Feldco. This segment of the podcast, which we have not planned, is called Feldco, the home renewal experts. Bleacher Nation is proud to partner with Feldco. For almost 50 years, Feldco has been transforming Chicagoland homes with their windows, siding, doors, and roofing. Feldco is family-owned and prides themselves on delighting their customers with products made in the U.S. and designed specifically for the Midwest. Feldco offers the perfect balance of beauty and energy efficiency. Thank you, Feldco, for sponsoring this segment of the Bleacher Nation Cubs podcast. Okay, so two things. Do you want to start with thing one or thing two?
Give me thing two.
Oh, okay. Thing two. Is Cade Horton theoretically available for game 5 if he says he's pain free, despite the fact that they have said he wasn't going to be a factor in this series, even though he is eligible to return?
I think it doesn't matter because what I've seen is they're having him throw his like moderate intensity bullpen on Friday, which means he couldn't, or physically that's not the way the schedule works. So I think they've known for a while that it just wasn't safely going to be the thing. So even though he's pain free, and even though the Cubs have no good option, and even though it's be the last game of the year, he says he's pain free, but even if that's accurate, is he talking about just like standing there pain free, or is he talking about throwing and it feels a little?
Yeah.
And what stood out to me from this whole saga was when Jed Hoyer discussed the final decision to put him on the IL, the way he spoke, being like, yeah, he was able to throw, but it was clear he was not going to be able to throw without it affecting his execution. Yeah. And like when you say something like that, it's like, oh, okay. So he's pitching through serious discomfort, and the Cubs can tell he would suck if he tried to pitch like that. So
yeah, I guess. It does strike me as like if he's doing a full intensity bullpen. I don't know about
full. Yeah, I don't know about full. They play with those words a lot, so
I'm saying if that is the case,
why not just hold him and just see what happens? I get it. I don't. They would have to have someone. Game of the year. They'd have to have someone be injured because he's not on the roster.
Oh, well, I mean that's the thing.
You have to make a roster move.
To be fair, though, the eighth guy in the bullpen is
not hard to.
Yeah.
Although if you're the Brewers, you'd be like, I want an investigation of that guy's shoulder.
Yeah. Okay, so that was that, and then number two. This is like not a big thing, but it's one of those things that I think is the right call, and I guess you just have to operate this way in potential elimination games. So Jameson Taillon was pitching not as good as he was in San Diego, but in Chicago against the Padres, but against the Brewers. Christian Yelich, who was leading off against him because he's a lefty and has had some success against Taillon in the past. And the Cubs pulled Taillon and go to the bullpen and, preserve the lead, and they get done what they needed to get done. And so I'm bringing this up this way because I'm glad that they won, so that this is not like me second guessing Monday morning quarterback a loss. They won the game. So what Craig Counsell did was enough. Can they possibly survive doing that for the rest of the way? If there is the rest of the way, I mean, you can't, right? It's not possible.
Two ways to think about that. We don't have to go far back in the Wayback Machine to find a team that did do that, which is the Dodgers last year, did more or less exactly that all through the postseason. I think they had one postseason start that went like 5 innings, but they did exactly what the Cubs have tried to do. Now, the difference being they were more consistently getting good starts from short starts from their starting pitchers. I think they had more of the, trustworthy options available in bullpen. And also because the Dodgers always operate with like all these guys who miss half a season with injury, I think they had a lot of guys who were totally fresh,
Yeah.
Whereas the Cubs, that's just not the case. They got guys that in theory might be operating on fumes. And it's very hard for me to see. I mean, I was thinking about it for tonight's game, frankly, when I was looking at him, like, okay, so he threw 15, he threw 19, he threw like, okay, it's a back-to-back. Well, you do back-to-backs throughout the season. So they'll get a day off tomorrow. And anyway, when you're doing that kind of calculus in the NLDS, pretty hard when you're going to go 5 or 6 games at least for 2 more series, and there's off days. Yeah. But again, that means there's constant back-to-backs. And we saw it with Brad Keller last night. You're sometimes going to have guys go multiple innings because that's just because if one guy isn't perfectly getting you his inning for that night, then it throws everything out of whack, and somebody's got to cover that slack. So I do think the Cubs would.
Let me even rephrase this. Is there any? I get where you're going, and so sorry to cut you off, but I guess I wanted to ask this question a different way. Is there any world where any Cubs starter throws 7 innings this postseason? By not saying, do you think they can be that good?
Right.
We know that they
would. They ever even get that chance?
Are they even getting that chance?
Yeah. So that is where I was going, and part of what I was going to say. So that's a good follow-up question, because I was going to say it's part of why you really root for Cade Horton to come back, because I do think they would let him go 5 or 6. I tend to think the Tyone situation that started your question last night's game, where it wasn't that he was cruising, but he was at 75 pitches. He was still effective. You know, if he's getting pulled sort of mandatorily at 4 innings, I think that's how they're sketching it out for.
That's what I mean. There's no way you're letting Boyd face or Shota right now, especially Shota with the home run.
To go 5 innings, it's going to have to almost be perfect, because they're never going a third time through.
No, they're
never
not.
Going to happen.
I know.
Doesn't matter. They could have crazy, a perfect. Right? They could go 18 perfect batters, immaculate. They could throw 18 straight immaculate strikeout in, or I should say 6 straight immaculate innings, and they're still getting pulled.
I think so.
I think so.
I'm just saying, it's like that's where we've approached.
And we're kind of, I think probably you and I would agree, we're neither saying that's right or not right. We're just saying that's how this organization is going to operate. I think if it actually happened, Shota, I think I'd probably be pretty pissed if they pulled him.
Is there any version of tonight's game? This will be a fun, whatever, where we don't see Palencia, Keller, I'll say just one of Pomeranz or Thielbar, just to give you an out. Those 3 pitchers.
Kittredge, going to put him in there?
I was going to, but he's kind of like the same thing. It's like, is there any version where we don't see those 3 or 4 guys? I can't imagine a world where they don't pitch.
So let me start with Pomeranz. I don't know how many back-to-backs he's done this year. The Cubs were certainly more careful with him than anyone else. But if you feel like he's your best lefty beyond Thielbar, then it's almost impossible to imagine a game without him making an appearance. Okay, so there's one. Palencia, who's your bridge guy right now, it's virtually impossible to imagine.
He's in every game.
You're going to need someone in those innings no matter what. Yeah. And if Palencia is your top option, well then, and then of course Keller, he's the guy that's like, you can't lose your final game of the year and not have had your best reliever make an appearance. So I think you framed it well, that those 3 guys, a scenario where they don't appear. Yeah. The Cubs are winning 9-0. And it's like, okay, Aaron Svali can pitch the last 3 innings. That's about it.
Brewers load the bases. Keller gets up and warms, pulls a hammy while he's warming up.
It's a 9-0 game, but he's up and getting ready.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I'm pretty nervous about tonight. I don't know about you. We could kind of wind this down.
I'll tell you, I'm less nervous about tonight than I was about last night.
Yeah, there's less to lose now because we've won a game.
I think that's what it was. I hate that. I was trying to think of why do I feel that way. I didn't want to get swept, and I hate that feels so soft.
Hey, you want to know something? 100% of NLDSs that have gone to Game 5 were 2-1 in the series at one point. 100% of them.
Doesn't that have to be? Yeah, that has to be true, right?
Yep.
I'm like, is he dropping a truth bomb on me here? Or
100% of the games were 2-1.
Well, and
because people were like, including you and I, it's correct. They're like going down 2-0, like only 9 out of 10,000. I know it's like, okay, but it's kind of like the coin flip game. It's like now it's 2-1, and all of them have been that. So by winning one game,
you made it like every other
to 100%.
Every other series in history. Yeah, no, that's fine.
Come on. They've all been 2-1.
If they could have found a way to skip 2-1, then it would have been the first time in baseball history.
Yes.
that's ever happened, that we could have cited that stat. Yeah, someone did joke after the win. I was just basically my summary thought was, look, they didn't need to win pretty. They didn't, whatever. They just needed to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't need to win 3 games in a night. And someone jumped in and was like, yeah, but it would have been pretty cool if they won 3 games in a night, right? I'm like, yeah, I guess that would have been good.
What I would like to see is a playoff doubleheader to kick off every NLDS.
That's how it is in Korea.
Seriously? You know what? That might protect against the ultra aggressive bullpen usage.
Helps against that. It also shortens the off for the guys who get by, or for the teams that get buys. And the way they do it is, it's something I'm gonna mess up the particulars, but the gist is something like it's a 3-game series, it's a 3-game. No, it's something like the one team comes in with a 1-0 lead already.
Oh, I see.
And they do a doubleheader on the first day. So if you sweep the doubleheader and you were the team behind, you win the series. But if you split it, then you have to play one more game.
Got it.
Something like that.
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
it's a really fun, funky setup.
I mean, it's very different, but I think it would probably make playoff baseball resemble what it looked like 10 years ago more than it does today.
Okay, I got it. This is a good place to end, and we're going to end it here because we started there. Our producer, Addison. Okay. Fun fact. This is what he says. Fun fact tying back to the beginning of the show. Our AI overlords are telling me that the 1989 ALCS between the Blue Jays and A's had a 3-game stretch where the first team who scored lost. It didn't happen in the first inning, but it was a pattern from games 1 through 3. So that means it is possible. This is the only time it's happened where it was top of the first inning, the team scored and then went on to lose. But you have to go all the way back to 89 just to find a team that the first team who scored lost. It's been a very long time since even that has happened.
Taylor Swift wrote a whole album about that.
1989. Yeah, we get that.
That was for just Luis.
Life of a podcaster. All right. Thank you, Addison, for that note. And thank you to our sponsors, Ankin Law, 312-6 Injury Law Made Personal. Thank you to Michael Cerami. Read his stuff at Bleacher Nation. Thank you to Brett Taylor. That's me. Read my stuff at Bleacher Nation. And hopefully the Cubs will give us 1 more, 2 more, 3 more in-season pods to keep talking about this season. And game 4 tonight. And we'll hopefully see you next week. Well, we'll see you next week, but hopefully you'll see us with smiles on our faces. All right. Goodbye.